Hi, my name is Marco Aguilar, and I'll be presenting a scene from the movie Fargo. The scene I chose to analyze is the scene where Margie is driving in her police car with the captured Gar Grimsrud in the back. Margie talks to the silent Grimsrud as they drive through the snow. This film is important to me because I think it contains a poignant message on life and what is truly important. This particular scene, I believe, encompasses the main message of the film. One particular cinematic element prevalently used in the scene is acting/directing. The viewer will quickly notice that Margie is very calm throughout the scene. She isn't angry, which is a little weird because in the back of her car is a man who murdered several people. Yet she isn't angry at his actions, rather, she is puzzled. She doesn't know why he did what he did. She asks him, and for what? For a little bit of money? Margie knows that there's more to life than just money. She knows the things that are truly valuable in life, and she doesn't feel disgust for the actions that he does. Rather, she feels pitiful to him, and that's shown through the way that she views him. She kind of views him in this sort of distant way, distant gaze, where the viewer just kind of gets the sense that she knows that he never got the chance to comprehend that there's more to life than just money. And she feels sad because he'll never be able to realize this since he will be going to jail now. And so through Margie's calm demeanor and subtle gaze, it's represented that she not only feels sorry for him, but she herself knows that there is more to life than just money. And I feel like this is one of the main lessons that the film is trying to get through. So Margie's great acting here kind of allows the film to develop this idea. Another particular cinematic element that's prevalently used in the scene is lighting, sets, and location. As the two people drive, they pass a statue of Paul Bunyan. Paul Bunyan is an alpha male, but only Grimstra notices it. Margie doesn't. The Bunyan narrative is that Bunyan is a typical alpha male, strong, rugged, brave, a lumberjack who worked hard, bravely did his work, and lived saying little and expressing little. He is the ideal masculine man. And the fact that Grimsrud notices it while Margie doesn't suggests that Grimsrud is haunted by his ideal of masculinity. He strives to be like Paul Bunyan. This is why when Carl insults him, when Carl tries to take the car and half the money, when Carl insults Grimsrud's intelligence for the last time after mocking Grimsrud for suggesting they split the car, Grimsrud kills him. It was an attack on Grimsrud's masculinity, and he wouldn't have it. He wanted to, needed to prove his masculinity. Although a small detail, Grimsrud noticing the statue symbolizes how much he wanted to be this ideal version of masculinity, how much it consumes him, while Margie not noticing shows how she isn't obsessed with this. And the difference in their lives, Margie on the one hand having a loving husband, expected to be a mother soon, having an overall happy life, while Grimsrud is expected to spend the rest of his life in prison, shows how dangerous his fixation on masculinity can truly be. And looking at the two elements that we analyzed, acting/directing, and also lighting sets location, one can start viewing the film through a more psychological lens. A psychological lens exploring how fragile masculinity is damaging to individuals and the people around them. And we can see this from all the main characters, all the main male characters in the film, right? Jerry is too insecure to ask for money. His masculinity is always questioned by his father in law. And so he feels he needs to express his masculinity, get what he wants by brutally torturing his wife by the hands of someone else. Carl, he doesn't think that he can be a good criminal. He wants to be a cool, composed, manly man who can do these criminal things and make a living out of it, and this causes him to go on a killing spree. And Grimsrud kills Carl simply for being insulted. These examples of hyper masculinity are really a way to mask a person's own insecurities about their masculinity. These people feel like they need to prove that they are truly masculine, that they don't take any abuse, any criticism from anyone. Fargo is basically a movie about fragile men trying to prove their masculinity. This fragile masculinity causes them to go to extreme lengths to prove their masculinity. This results in the tragic deaths of several people. Margie is therefore the perfect protagonist to juxtapose the fragile men trying to prove their masculinity. Movies like Fargo would typically have a very strong masculine protagonist playing the role of the cop. The cop would typically be aggressive when he interrogates Grimstone at the end. He would be berating Grimswood for the terrible things he did. Yet in the car scene, Margie is calm. She is not the typical alpha male cop we are used to seeing. She is a woman who is calm, not aggressive, loving to her husband, and not cold. She is unable to express her own emotions. Through Margie, the viewer can see how fulfilling a life can be by not being controlled by the desire to prove one's masculinity. Margie has a concrete knowledge of what's truly important in life: love, family, friendships, and fulfilling experiences. In contrast, the male characters in Fargo lead a diluted life, chasing things that aren't really meaningful and causing bloodshed throughout the town. As Margie reflects, money isn't everything. Historically, it's been socially unacceptable for men to express their emotions. There's this preconceived notion, especially when the film was released in the 1990s, that men should be cool, emotionless, and brave. Men that do what they have to without complaining, hesitating, or having difficulty. To be a man, you have to have an aura of invulnerability. This film is important because it identifies the problem with this way of thinking. This way of thinking makes men feel ashamed for being emotional or not fully fitting into this ideal version of masculinity. This causes them to seek to prove their masculinity. As we saw in Fargo, this desire to prove masculinity can be a dangerous path. They say that every part of a scene has meaning. It's very difficult to grasp that, but this project really emphasized this for me. The first 10 times I watched the scene, the statue of Paul Bunyan flew over my head. But eventually, it just caught my attention and I wondered why it's there, why it's significant. That's when I searched up who he was and realized how significant it is that Grimswood noticed this ideal alpha male figure, but Margie didn't. It really goes to show that every little detail is meticulously thought out in a film. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation.